Welcome to the Bookish Ballerina Podcast, where we talk about ballet, stories, art, science, economics, music, and everything in between. I'm your host, Eleanor Stewart, and I am a rather bookish ballerina. Today is the first episode of something I have been thinking about for a long time, called Laymen Talk Ballet. Going forward, we will have both these types of episodes and normal interview episodes. Today's guests are my parents, Keith and Benita Stewart, and we discuss what it was like being the parents of a ballet dancer when they didn't know very much about the inner workings of ballet. They ask a wonderful array of questions. I hope you enjoy the interview. Hello, and welcome to the Bookish Ballerina Podcast. It is great to have y'all on the show. Very special guests.
Thank you for having us.
It's good to be here.
All right, so whenever y'all are ready, go for it.
Okay. So, like I told you, I'm asking as a dad who was sort of pulled into this ballet world without knowing a whole lot. So I have some questions.
Okay.
And I've had some questions for several years, and I don't know that they've all been answered. So, okay, ballet. Why?
So, there's a variety of reasons for ballet as a specific art form. The whole basis of ballet is that it tells a story, or even if it doesn't have a complete story arc, it tells an emotional arc without using words. So the whole point of the art form is that it's expression of either story arc or a movement that has an emotion without words. Now, there are a couple other things. Like when I was younger, I loved the story part mostly without the other parts. But as I've gotten older, it's also a puzzle because technically, if you want to achieve a certain step, you have to have certain muscles and muscle memory in order to achieve that step. So it's kind of like a puzzle. You have to have 1 + 1 = 2. It's a challenge.
Well, that brings up another question for me. In the story of the ballet, I don't always know the story, and I only know when people are fighting on stage or when they're happy.
Yes. So it is often good to research the story a little bit before you come to the ballet. Usually the context is a little bit historical, so it's good to know who the characters are and what the purpose of each of the characters is before you come to the ballet, so that you can really enjoy the full storytelling experience.
Okay. Well, that makes... Go ahead.
I'm sure that's why they usually do a small write-up about what it's about in the programs.
Yes,
for that very reason.
Exactly.
But that's not always there.
That's very true. Usually when it isn't there, there isn't a story for the piece. And some pieces are just to display dancers' technique and speed, versatility in their style, turning ability, jumping ability, something like that.
Okay, recitals. Why do they last so long?
That is a great question, and it is the eternal quest to make them more concise, so that parents do not have to sit through 15 teeny little ones dances just to see their one daughter. But the goal of schools is also, to educate as many students as possible. So if there are a lot of students, they each have to have time on stage. And so the larger the school is, the more they can impact the students, the more people they can educate about the art form of ballet, but it also makes the recitals longer.
Do you have a particular recital or showcase that's memorable to you?
Ooh, I have a few. Ballet 3 with Miss Kimberly Sears. That was the first year I memorized the whole dance, and I remember being so proud. So proud. But it's so funny to watch that video, because I was living my heart out. Like, I had the épaulement exaggeration looking all the way to the side, and then my head would go all the way down and back to the audience. It was just me living my best life with not fully pointed feet and slightly bent knees. It was great.
I remember your first recital. Do you remember your first recital?
I remember watching the video. I remember very, very vaguely, but I know exactly what you're going to say.
Yes, when you were being helpful to the dancer in front of you and you pushed her along to help her remember her part.
Yes, that was me. I was that child. Yes.
How old were you?
I was 4. I was 3 when I started, but by the time the recital came around, I had turned 4. Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then there were some other fun recitals as I got older, like with Mobile Ballet Academy, when I got to do the Swan Lake Pas de Trois solo as part of the recital. That was fun. And then the first time where I got to perform in the same show as my students, that was great. Yes.
So, with your students and just my memory of you being here and in ballet, you were never home. You were gone to ballet every night.
Yeah, pretty much.
So why does ballet have to be every day?
There are a few different thoughts on this. Obviously, when I was younger, it wasn't every day. It was probably not until late elementary school it started being a couple times a week, and then middle school it started being 5 to 6 days a week. So as the dancer gets more advanced and their muscles get stronger, they start to work on more advanced technical things. And as you get more advanced, the little tiny muscles start having muscle memory, and those muscles need to stay, they need to stay in shape. And if you don't dance, for example, this past week there was the storm and I didn't dance Tuesday or Wednesday. And by the time we got back to the studio, I could feel that I hadn't danced in several days. I can feel the difference in my body.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, another big deal in your ballet career was when you got point shoes.
Yes.
So, what's the big deal there?
That's a huge part of being a young dancer. And, when you're really little, you don't know what the big deal is. You just know that it means that it's a step up in ballet, and it's super exciting because it's the quintessential ballet thing. Point shoes. You get to go all the way up on your tips of your toes, which you've been told not to do since you were 3 because it can hurt you. But now that you're strong enough and you have the special shoes, it means you are there in an 11 or 12-year-old's mind. That's what it means.
You sound like you're talking to your students right now.
Yes, because I'm thinking of when I was that age and why it was so special. It means something different now. I mean, I still love point. It's one of my favorite things about ballet. It has a very different feeling than ballet flats because there's less friction, so you can turn more easily. And it's created to make dancers look like they're floating across the stage. And there is definitely more of that feeling. It makes the lines longer. I love point shoes. But when I was 12, it was just a cool thing.
One other thing about point shoes is that when you first got in point shoes, I wondered about the pronunciation of the word, and I found that it's supposed to be point.
Yeah.
And you've never agreed with me.
Well, okay. So the French pronunciation is not point. Not literally point, but it's not point either. That's a little bit of a English butchering of French pronunciation. So I don't know. You can, I guess, use either, but I prefer the more English version instead of the mispronunciation of a French word. We mispronounce a lot of words in America, a lot of ballet terms, because the R's in French pronunciation of an R sounds almost like an H to my ear. It's not the same as an H, but it sounds similar to me. So anytime we say relevé or rond de jambe, we are butchering the French pronunciation.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, continuing on with point shoes, why do they cost so much money?
Yes, they're all made by hand. So there are some very cool videos you can find on YouTube of people making point shoes. And some companies, you can order your point shoes from the same maker every time, which my shoes are Nicolai, so they don't let me know the maker. I don't know who makes each pair of shoes. But for example, Freed, and there's another company that does that as well. Point shoes are all made by hand, and they're basically made of paper mache. So they're layers of paper and glue, and then it's covered by satin. There's the bottom is leather. And so it's stapled on, and it has to be pleated by hand, and each layer of glue and paper is applied by hand. Some makers can make up to 30 pairs a day, so it's not like they take forever, but they take a lot of experience to make. And then they have to be shipped, usually across the ocean. Mine, like I said, are from Nikolai, so they come from Russia. So there's a lot of shipping that goes into that. Special types of glue have to be used to combat humidity and sweat to make them last slightly longer, because, moisture in paper mache makes it softer and makes it lose its shape, which is why after dancing on them and sweating in them for so many hours and pounding them on the floor by dancing, they lose their shape and their structure and can no longer hold a dancer up, at which point we say that they are dead.
Well, maybe this is sacrilege, but aren't we at a point in technology where Nike or Adidas could make a good point shoe that would last longer and hold up?
There are some changes in point shoe technology. For example, some companies are doing a silicone-based shoe that's made more out of plastic. Gaynor Minden is well known for that, but there's some other companies that are starting to do that as well, so that they don't die as quickly. The thing with that is they don't shape to your foot as well. So there's pros and cons. You have to have it perfectly matched to your foot, because it's not going to adjust.
Well, I figured that there was a reason that you were using the same technology that's been around for years and years. I thought maybe it was more of a tradition thing than a function thing.
There is a lot of tradition, but I guess it's a little bit of both. They are designed to be maximally safe for something that the human body is not supposed to do.
Okay. Well, this is a question that your mother came up with when we were thinking of questions to ask. Do you want to ask this, Benita?
Yes, I do. Okay, you were raised in a household with parents that are, for the most part, ballet illiterate.
Yes,
Would you agree?
I would agree, yes.
So my question is, what are the good things about that, and what are the bad things about that? The pros and cons.
Ooh, that's a good question. The good things about that is that y'all were not really stage parents, which was great. I liked going off and doing my own thing. I mean, yes, so it was just mine, and I didn't have to worry about y'all trying to correct me. Although, when you were on side stage in Nutcracker Dad, when you were a party dad, and you would watch me after you got off stage, you did try to give me some notes, which I always found very. I always found them entertaining. But yes, that was good. That was good. And as far as cons, I don't know. I think it would have, I don't know. I feel like y'all did a good job of balancing the fact that y'all didn't know much about ballet. Because you would ask me questions, and then of course, like, you, Dad, were in Nutcracker 4 years in a row as a party dad. So, yes. So I think y'all learned, and like Mom, you went and met with my artistic director, Miss Katia Garza, to learn more about it. So it's not like y'all were just sitting there like, I don't care about ballet. So I think I had the best of both worlds.
We cared a lot.
Yeah, I think you did. I think you invested quite a lot into it. Very much so.
Well, this is sort of being on the ballet illiterate background, but most of the general population is ballet illiterate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why do you think that ballet is not more widely? What's the word I'm thinking of?
Enjoyed?
Well, not necessarily enjoyed, but loved on, and why don't you have big fans? Appreciated, yeah.
Well, it's not, I mean, objectively, it's not been in America that long. And to this day, Nutcracker is really the only big ballet thing that people are aware of and go to and get excited about. And that was consequence of George Balanchine's influence in New York at the time. So we need someone else to teach people about the other aspects of ballet and why they should come to the theater every time. You know, it's one of the art forms. I mean, there's so many art forms that are just, you know, they make you feel alive to experience. Symphony, and of course we have live music here in Tallahassee, so it's a big part of our shows. But it's just an incredible experience, and it has a depth of emotion to it that most people aren't aware of when they think of ballet.
Yeah, before you started ballet, and we attended so many of yours at Mobile Ballet. You know, for instance, I had heard of Sleeping Beauty. I had heard of Nutcracker, but I had never really heard of Giselle. And then seeing Giselle and, you know, of course, you telling me the story of Giselle to understand more about what was going on, you know, that's just a really good story and a really beautiful ballet.
It's so good. It's so good. Yes.
My favorite thus far.
Yes. That's my favorite ballet. I love Giselle. Yeah.
So what's another ballet that if I could go see it, what's one I should see that I don't know about already?
Ooh, that you don't know about already. La Fille Malgardie. It's more of a comedy.
Repeat this name?
La Fille Malgardie. It's LA space FILLE space MAL space GARDEE. And that translates to The Wayward Maiden. It's much more of a comedy. It's very entertaining. It's a fun one. It's not quite so much of a tragedy as Giselle.
Oh yeah, I forgot that Giselle's a tragedy.
It's very
I remember you describing Giselle to us, and you bounced in and you're all smiley and laughing, and you say, okay, first of all, it's a tragedy, and with a big smile on your face.
It's a tragedy, but it's so fun.
Okay, so that's the general population, and okay. So, speaking of watching the ballet, it looks easy from the stage. I mean, from the audience, it looks easy.
Yes. And that is a battle that dancers deal with as far as conceptions of ballet. But for example, when I was in middle school and Olivia McKinnon came to do Aurora, and I was, the little girl sitting in the back with the flower basket, she would be dancing, doing her solo, and while she was turning, beads of sweat would just fly off and hit us in the face while we were sitting there smiling. So it's not easy. It's a very physically exerting thing, but it's dancers' challenge to create that illusion that makes it look effortless. And a lot of training goes into that.
And especially the male dancers that do the lifts.
Yes, they do different cross training in a lot of ways than female dancers. A lot of weight training, a lot of push-ups, in order to prepare their muscles to be able to do that.
And I've got a couple more questions. I don't know if your mom has some, but
I have one more thought on that.
Okay.
Female dancers do weight training too. It's just not the giant heavy weights. So female dancers use the lighter weights in most cases. I mean, sometimes the heavier weights, just not as intense as the male dancers do because we don't have to pick people up. But we do still have to have that cross training in order to keep our muscles strong and as a method of injury prevention.
Okay. And speaking of the body, ballet dancers have a certain typical physique.
Yes.
So there's the pencil thin, and I don't know if they're 5'4" or 5'8", or there's something that's sort of standard. Is that in the ballet world? Is that considered a good thing or not a good thing?
There are mixed opinions on this. I think the stereotypical pencil thin dancer is not a healthy thing. And then of course height is not something you can change about yourself. But there are companies that, like, each company in most cases has a height range that they accept. Some cases they don't stipulate height, which is great. And it just depends on the company what the appearance they want, which there's a lot of discussion about that. The pencil thin thing with zero body fat, anorexic appearance is not healthy, not good. But also the dancers need to be healthy and in shape enough to be able to perform their job. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they have zero weight on their body, zero fat on their body, because very few people have that naturally, and other people should not attempt to achieve it with unhealthy methods.
Yeah. Well, in
I have a question regarding that. So the like that stereotype that you were just referring to. Is that something, like ballet's been around for what, 500 years or so? Is that right?
It started in like the 1600s, so
Okay.
yes,
Something
that's
like
a pretty
that.
good estimate, yes.
So the stereotypical physique, is that a relatively new thing? Because
It depends. Let's see. It comes a lot from George Balanchine's
so that would
preference.
mean yes, it is, because that would be within the last 100 years.
Yes. Now, that's not to say that there weren't people in the past who had that preference, but it like the I want to see the bones is a George Balanchine thing.
So that is that okay.
And he was not good to his dancers in the way he went about trying to achieve that look. Yes. It was very unhealthy, very bad. And a lot of the dancers passed away young or had long-term illness as a consequence of that and the methods that they used.
Well, in your time at Mobile Ballet, even when you were younger and all the way through while you were there, and I guess even now still with Tallahassee, my question is, if dancing and ballet is so great and wonderful, why do ballet dancers quit?
That is an excellent question, and there are a few reasons. So, you're my little sister, who you know, she quit ballet when she was 5. She decided it was not her thing. It's very common for kids to quit when they're young because they think ballet is boring. I actually had a little student a couple weeks ago who it was her first day, and I guess she had taken ballet before, I don't know, but it was her first day with me. And she walked into class and she was like doing the slumped back and the like pouty face, like she did not want to be there. And I asked her at the end of class, I was like, what did you like about dance? And she said, I do not like ballet. Ballet is boring. Well, we got to talk about some ballet stories the next week, and she walked out of the studio with the biggest smile on her face. So I think when kids are little, it's just tedious because you work on a lot of little muscle things, and not every teacher is good about integrating story into every class. And then as dancers get older, depending on where they are and what kind of instructors they have, there can be pressure involving body type, and the way bodies look. And some kids get to the point, especially around middle school or early high school, or even later, depending on the environment of the organization, where kids just don't want to look at themselves in the mirror anymore. And that happens with professionals also, depending on the environment of the ballet company. It's just, there are some companies that do not treat their dancers well.
And I also see around that time, around middle school, there's so many other things pulling at them that are also good things, and they have to start choosing.
Oh, yes. I know a young dancer who recently, much to my sadness, decided that she wanted to focus on something else, which is great, good for her. But it made me sad because she was very talented. But that's good. I mean, it's good that she went and pursued something that her heart was more into.
Well, that was the last question I had prepared. So I think, going from that parent that just didn't understand ballet, didn't understand why you wanted to do it, and then I forget when it was that I finally got it. It was that thing with Mobile Ballet, Ovation. Yeah. That's where I felt like I was no longer seeing you just do a recital that was cute.
Yes. And that, for my listeners, that was a performance that didn't have a storyline. It was a bunch of different pieces set to different types of music. We had Nina Simone, we had Frank Sinatra, we had, the piece was called In Swing. I don't know. It's iconic music. Anyway, it was
Gershwin.
Yeah, George Gershwin. Yes. So it was a show with a bunch of different musical styles, and it was just fun. It was pure fun from the start to the finish. That was a fun show.
I know you're preparing right now for a thing later this month, and we're going to be down to see that.
Yes. Okay, I have a couple questions for y'all.
Right.
I ask this to every guest on the show. What is one thing you wish you could teach everyone?
I have my answer.
Go.
I don't know about me teaching everyone, but what I wish everyone could learn is how to read well, how to read efficiently. Because, I've known people who could not, and if you can read, you can learn so much, you can follow after many interests.
Yeah.
And if you cannot, it's such a handicap.
Yeah.
And I've also known some really bright people who just could not read well, if at all. And it's sad. And I wish that everyone could learn that skill efficiently.
Yeah. That's a good one. Yes. Y'all trained us well in that.
She did. She was the
yes,
teacher.
She did. She was the teacher.
Well, my thing would be initiative.
Ooh.
The thing that I wish everybody knew more about and was initiative, and also for myself, because I'm generally a person of great ideas, but really taking action and putting it into motion is the thing that I wish I had more of. Just more initiative and more follow through.
Okay, so what is one thing you wish you could learn more about? Which I know we just kind of covered a little bit with Dad.
I wish I could learn more about so many things. As I get interested in one thing and begin learning about it, there's always something that shoots off of that. And it's just like kind of a never-ending sort of thing. If I had the resources where it just did not matter, I would be in school all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Because it would, I just enjoy that world.
Yeah. Do you have like something specifically right now that you are learning about?
Right now, and this is kind of an ongoing thing, but I wouldn't want to just learn about this, but more about nutrition and the microbiome and just things that affect, your health like that.
Nice. Very nice.
But, in 2 weeks it'll be different.
Yeah.
Maybe in 2 months, but.
Yeah. Yes. Do you have another one, Dad? Or was that?
Well, this is sort of just because it was recent news. It was the 60th anniversary of Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech.
Ah.
So I told your mother that I would like to, if there were such a class, just do a college class or studying his speeches and his writings.
I know.
Just I know the the sound bites, from his speeches, but I don't know the real background of a lot of it. And anyway, I just think that's something that would be very interesting to do.
Yeah, that would be. That's very neat. Yes, I think apparently like the specific "I have a dream" line he improvised.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
That's so cool. That's very interesting. Thank you both so much for coming on the Bookish Ballerina Podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, and talk to you soon.
I hope you enjoyed the interview. If you have any questions for a future Laymen Talk Ballet episode, or if you would like to be considered as a future Laymen Talk Ballet guest, please send me a message through Instagram at the.bookish.ballerina or at the.bookish.ballerina.podcast. I look forward to seeing you for the next episode.